Welcome back to Scary Hour, where nightmares come to life. Tonight's story begins on a dark and stormy night, the kind where the rain doesn't just fall, it attacks. Rain lashed against the grimy windows of Ravenhill Hospital as nurse Clara Evans punched in for her graveyard shift. The air inside was thick with the smell of antiseptic and old secrets, a familiar but unsettling perfume. She'd worked here for years, knew every creak of the floorboards, every whisper that traveled the long, dimly lit corridors. But tonight, something felt different. The storm outside seemed to echo a tempest brewing within the hospital's decaying walls. She made her rounds. The ancient intercom system, usually dormant and coated in a thin layer of dust, crackled to life with a jolt of static. A voice, distorted and ethereal, rasped through the speaker. Ward 7. Assistance needed, ... immediately. Clara froze, her hand hovering over a patient's chart. Her blood ran cold. Ward 7? That was impossible. The ward had been sealed off for over a decade, condemned after a tragic fire had claimed the lives of all its patients. It was a place spoken of only in hushed, fearful whispers among the staffatum within the hospital. Everyone knew you didn't go near Ward 7. She tried to dismiss it as a technical glitch, a phantom signal from the storm playing tricks on the old wiring. But the voice had been so clear, so ... desperate, it was a plea. A summons she felt compelled to answer, against every instinct screaming at her to run. Her duty as a nurse, a deep-seated need to help, overrode her fear. Or perhaps it was something else guiding her, a force she couldn't comprehend. Taking a deep breath, Clara grabbed a heavy, old-fashioned flashlight from the nurse's station. Its beam cut a nervous path through the encroaching darkness as she walked toward the forgotten wing. The further she went, the colder the air became, the silence growing heavier, more profound. The familiar hospital sounds, the rhythmic beeping of monitors, the soft hum of ventilators faded away, replaced by the frantic pounding of her own heart. She found the entrance to Ward 7 at the end of a long, disused hallway. A heavy, bolted door stood before her, wrapped in thick chains, and a padlock rusted shut by time and neglect. A faded sign, barely legible, read Ward 7, no admittance. But tonight, inexplicably, the chains lay in a heap on the floor. And the door was slightly ajar, a sliver of absolute blackness beckoning from beyond. Hesitantly, she pushed it open. The hinges shrieked in protest, a sound that grated on her nerves. The air that rushed out to meet her was putrid, a nauseating mix of rust, decay, and something else, ... Something sickly sweet and rotten, like forgotten flowers on a grave. Clara stepped inside, her flashlight beam dancing across scenes of ordered decay. Beds lined the walls, their thin mattresses covered in grimy, stiff sheets. Old medical equipment stood like skeletal sentinels, shrouded in cobwebs. Everything was coated in a thick layer of dust, untouched for years, except ... for one bed. At the far end of the ward, bed number 12 stood out. Its sheets weren't just dusty, they were disturbed, crumpled, as if someone had just risen from them. Beside it, a heart monitor, miraculously powered on, blinked with a steady, rhythmic green light. A slow, deliberate heartbeat pulsed on the screen. Beep, ... beep, ... Hello, Clara whispered, her voice a fragile tremor in the suffocating silence. Is someone here? The only response was the relentless beeping of the monitor and the drumming of the rain against the roof. She moved closer, drawn by an unnerving curiosity. As she reached the foot of the bed, a voice slithered out from the shadows right beside her ear. A dry, raspy whisper that sounded like dead leaves skittering across pavement. "You're late, Nurse Evans?" Clara spun around, but there was no one there. At that exact moment, the heavy ward door slammed shut with a deafening boom that echoed like a coffin lid ceiling. The lock clicked. She was trapped. Panic seized her as the lights in the ward began to flicker erratically, plunging her into moments of terrifying darkness before bathing the room in a sickly, strobing yellow light. During one flash of light, she saw it. A figure was now sitting up in bed number 12. It was pale, almost translucent, its form wavering in the flickering light. Its hospital gown was tattered and stained. But the most horrifying detail was its mouth. The lips were crudely stitched together with thick black thread, pulled tight into a grotesque, permanent grimace. And yet it spoke. A muffled guttural whisper seeped through the seams of its stitched mouth, a voice filled with an eternity of pain and accusation. ... Me. Clara stumbled backward, her mind reeling. She didn't recognize the patient, yet the accusation felt deeply personal. The flickering lights intensified, and in the strobing flashes, words began to materialize on the walls, looking as though they were bleeding through the peeling paint. Dark, viscous letters formed a single repeating command. "Finish your shift!" A scream tore from Clara's throat, raw and full of terror. But the sound was swallowed by the thick, dead air of the ward. Her screams never reached the hallway. They never reached anyone. The next morning, the storm had passed. Sunlight streamed through the hospital's windows, making the dust motes dance in the air. Everything was back to normal. The door to Ward 7 was chained and padlocked, just as it had been for years. Inside, the ward was silent and still, once more, every bed empty, every sheet covered in a smooth, undisturbed blanket of dust, except for one. On the nightstand next to bed number 12, a new patient tag had been clipped to the chart holder. It read in neat clinical handwriting, "Clara Evans admitted to 43 a.m. If you felt a chill run down your spine, do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Scary Hour for more tales that will haunt your nights. Thank you for watching, and whatever you do, try to sleep well."